Welcome one and all to Last Stop Penn Station podcast featuring Cary, Silkin, and Ian Riccaboni. They dive deep into Cary's wealth of stories, and no subject is off limits. From the world of wrestling to his ticket agency, growing up in New Jersey, drug-fueled underground days, hustling in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and endless days and nights in New York City, every story is worth telling.
Hey everybody, it's Ian Riccaboni, Cary, Silkin, Last Stop Penn Station. Cary, I'm in the bubble again.
Look at him. He's got a bubbly... I get to sing the song and a bubbly nose, Mr. Bubble.
Actually, by now I'm actually out of the bubble, technically.
Yes, because right now it is March 19th.
It is March... Yes, that's wink. Wink, wink. Wink, wink. It is March 19th.
You're still in the bubble.
I'm still in the bubble. We're having a lot of fun.
Big ass bubble.
Hey, my big ass got the COVID vaccine.
I know. You were standing right behind Hank Sachs Calhoun and Man Mountain Mike.
I say, Bobby Cruz, oh, you're fat. Oh, he always tells me that. And sure enough, it worked into my favor.
Did you ever see him pull his belly out when he's
does the George Animal Steel?
When he's not pulling his beanbag out?
Oh, geez. Yeah. Bobby, I'll tell you what, Bobby has no regard for anybody else that's in the dressing room. He just thinks he's the only one in there and just changes right into that suit.
Well, I stayed a couple times. Bobby Cruz, our beloved ring announcer, and one of my good friends, and he really is. And then you have Todd Sinclair.
Yeah.
Another beloved
Love Todd.
Friend.
Love Bobby too.
And talk about, now they, back in the days of Ring of Honor, with Cary as the owner, sometimes there was 5 to a room. Todd and Bobby would split a room. Mm-hmm. And I would often travel, like let's say we were going from Dayton to Chicago, or we were going from, it was usually to Chicago, Cleveland to somewhere, Cleveland to Detroit, say, something like that. Sure. I would travel with them. So but I didn't always room with them. Mm-hmm. So Todd would tell me, and Bobby would brag about this too, that every time they stay, Todd's very low key.
Yeah.
Bobby's
very loud.
Very loud. He's got no shame, and so Todd would say, yeah. Every time, it's like one of these running jokes you would see in every week, like with, of course, my references are 70 years old with Jackie Gleason, like every honeymoon episode, he'd be like looking out the window, hey, Norton, yelling at us. And then Norton would walk in the front door and Jackie Gleason turned around, trying to scare me, right?
That's perfectly Bobby Cruz, yeah?
So the running joke with these guys, that was just repeated. But it was always funny. So the running, this necessarily wasn't that funny. Bobby Cruz, he's going to love me telling this, would not only like to go to, you've told me that it's proper etiquette, which I didn't even know, because I usually had my own room, or sometimes I would stay with Jerry Lynn. Sure. Or I would stay with the Bucks sometimes, and Tyler Black famously was one of my roommates because he didn't want to be around all the guys drinking. But Bobby would go to the bathroom to take a dump, leaving the door open.
Oh, jeez,
right.
Bobby.
And Todd would be like, "What are you doing?" And then, if that wasn't bad enough, Todd would they would have separate beds, and Todd would say every time Bobby would creep around and
I can see this in my head.
Stick his butt. Like Todd's laying there, and like Bobby would put his butt crack as close as he could to Todd's face. So one time we had a show in Detroit, and we took that little tunnel across to I always forget the name of the town. And we talked about this. Oh, shit.
Right in Canada there?
Yeah, on the other side of Detroit.
Yeah, PJ Black and Colt Cabana and I and PCO went to a Toys R Us. It was one of the last. Toys R Us is still in Canada, but we took that tunnel.
Well, there's a casino in that town. Why the hell can't I think of the name of the town? Anyway, we stayed at this casino, and you could get it's a casino. The rooms were cheap. You get it was like $99 for a suite. This would be big enough. So I stayed with them, and it was true, so I got to witness this. They didn't like to stay with me because they liked the room freezing cold. Yeah. No matter if it was 20 degrees out or 90 degrees out. Yeah. They liked the temperature like it's 60.
That's a bigger guy thing. That's, I'm obese, as the U.S. government has told me. And yeah, that's a bigger guy thing. If you got a little bit of extra meat on you, you like it freezing. You're a skinny guy.
One time we were in between Ohio and Chicago, and we had this one. It was just this town, like one of those exits where they have 4 motels, 3 gas stations, and a couple fast food places, and nothing else.
Nothing. And you wonder where the people who are working there come from each day. Yeah.
Right. So we had this spot. It was, let's just say Dayton to Chicago was 4 hours. It was around the 2-hour spot. And we would stay there. And we never would have a reservation. So one time we get to this hotel, and I said, we didn't know we'd get rooms. So there were a lot of cars. Sometimes there'd be like a college. So this is Friday night going into Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
There'd be a a high school or a college near. Yeah. Certainly high schools. And there's a lot of cars. And I said, let me run in. I think we'd gone to the regular one that we went to when they were sold out. And I go, sold out? And he said, oh, yeah, there's the big game. I'm like, oh, sure. Maybe it was a car race. It's something. Yeah. So we go to the next place, value in, quality in. So the girl says, yeah. I go, let me, because I definitely wanted my own room. They wouldn't stay in my room because it was cold out. I'd have the heat cranked up to like 80.
Yeah.
So
I can confirm that. The one time in Vegas, we had to run up to your room and grab something before we went back down to eat. And it was a sauna.
In Vegas.
Yes, in Vegas.
So I run into this hotel. The girl at the front desk says, oh, yes, we have 2 rooms, sir. I go, okay, good. Now, Todd and Bobby were in the car. So I said, honey, I just want to play a little trick on my friends. And I'm giving her my credit card. She's booking the 2 rooms. I go, one of them has 2 beds, right? She goes, yes. And they both have 2 beds. I said, all right, fine. I said, when my friends come in, they're out in the car. I'm going to wave them in. Tell them that the only room you have is, well, I have 1 bedroom and I have one other thing, but it's a closet. I made it up. Yeah. A closet. So she says, closet. I go, yeah. But she was cool. Yeah. She goes, all right. She knew. I said, yeah. Tell them yes, we. Mr. Silkin got the room, but we do have 1 closet. So we were tired. But, Bobby had flown in that day and Todd had, and they came in and I'm like waving them. And I remember Bobby, the look on him. Oh, he was literally like,
what?
And Todd goes, closet. And she's like, well, it's very small. Well, I said, no worry. But it was fun staying with those, traveling with those guys. I don't know how we got on.
Right. Yeah, I miss them. It's always nice to see them in the bubble, and hopefully I'll be seeing them. We're 3 of the rare people that get to see everybody in the bubble, which is really nice. And because this time of year, we'd be going to Vegas normally. We'd be going to the anniversary, which is coming up next week on Honor Club, 8 p.m. hour 1 start, rohhonorclub.com. Hour 1's going to be on Facebook, YouTube, you name it. It's free to watch. So I'm missing that. I'm excited that the world's hopefully going to open back up soon with this vaccines and all that fun stuff. But I miss that. And yeah, I can't wait to see him.
Yeah, me too. And as I said last week, Joe, Gary, and Greg made arrangements if I wanted to go, but it's just better that I don't go this time. And hopefully in the next set of tapings that come up, things will be a lot more relaxed, I think. And I'll be all vaccinated up and ready to go.
I think most of the roster will be, hopefully. I mean, by the way, the goal was 1 million doses a day. We're over 3 million a day now. We're rolling, baby.
We're in a lot better situation with with President Biden. If certain people don't like me, too bad.
Well, the one thing that did happen that helped was enacting the wartime powers to get vaccines moving even quicker. So that's one thing that is factually different than the previous.
Trump's going to claim that he was the one who got the ball rolling and all that, and that's we know that's a bunch of shit. I mean, so.
Here's something for real though. The vaccines that are opening up, there's different classes and tiers that are now opening up because the most vulnerable are in most cases already vaccinated by now. If you haven't got it, please check your local county, your hospitals, your health commissions, your boards, things like that. I signed up. I put in my qualifications, which was asthma and obesity. And I not immediately, it took about 2 weeks, but they sent me a notification saying we have a slot.
My qualification was I'm a human smokestack.
The one time smoking gets you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
But some states aren't as,
right.
Pennsylvania's been really good. I spoke to my dear friend Beverly today, and she's living now, retired with her husband Ray in a beautiful, deep into Virginia. Mm-hmm. And Virginia, she's getting her first shot tomorrow. She's my age, and there were a lot more available where we live than
Absolutely.
Virginia.
Yeah, there was hundreds of time slots that I could pick from in various locations. Hazleton happened to be the first available, but I mean, my parents, who are both nearing 65 in Florida, are having the worst time. I mean, it's only going to, there's kind of a controversy brewing right now. It's going to the rich areas.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, it's going to the where the donations happen to be flowing from. So we'll just leave that there. But, we hope if you have the availability, please do it. These vaccines, all three are effective. They're saying masks plus the vaccines is nearly 100% effective against getting the virus. So if everybody does the vaccines, everybody does the mask for a little bit, and this should be gone pretty quick.
Yeah. So that's rolling along. We took a break this week. Once again, this is coming out on the 19th. We took a break. We took a week break. On the very popular 55 and 5. It's not due to any reason except the bubble.
Right. So
we'll be back with the new 55 and 5s the following week. People are enjoying that.
Right.
I'm enjoying learning about some of these obscure and some of these great stars from the Parkhurst collection.
Yeah.
Which you can see on Ian's YouTube page or you could binge them.
Sure, yeah. We have the audio format, so it's been rolling along at adfreeshows.com, which is where Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, Eric Bischoff, you name it, they're all up on there. We're on the free tier. We're a nice appetizer, thanks to Conrad. So it's a little bit of a bonus content for you. Also, the posters of the week have been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun.
We've been doing we did some charity posters recently. We've done some 1975 posters. And I really hope Donna Stutz was able to get that. Until you mentioned that might be a put on, that there was a possibility, I thought that was the sweetest thing in the world. And now I need to know. I need to find out if poor Donna Stutz.
And we had to do some research on that Jerry Stubbenfeld, who was holding the Christmas benefit in Trenton in May. It had been like, the Kiwanis Club.
Sure.
Or the Moose Lodge.
Yeah.
Or a particular hospital. But this was just for needy children. Maybe they were his needy children. But so that's been really cool. we were talking about, I mentioned last week real quick, and I was shocked that my pop culture guru buddy here, Ian Riccaboni, was not familiar with the name Allen Klein, but it's going to be one of those things. I think my mother told me this years ago, that like, you're going to learn a word, and then within the next 7 days, it's going to come up somewhere.
Sure.
Right. So Allen Klein, we had talked about in our pop culture stuff, we had talked about, and maybe by now you've watched it in the bubble, One Night in Miami.
Hopefully. I will watch it in the bubble. I will promise you. I will.
Which was about, Malcolm X trying to recruit Sam Cooke, Cassius Clay, and Jim Brown for his cause with the Muslims. And Sam Cooke was tragically, or maybe through foul play, was found and he was a big star. Mm-hmm. And he was found in a cheap motel. He had a voracious appetite for women. And Allen Klein, AJ, to add mystery to this Sam Cooke thing, he was managed by Allen Klein.
Oh, geez.
And Allen Klein inherited all the rights to Sam Cooke's stuff, geez. Which was popular, not just after, darling, you send me, and there's a laundry list. Well, this guy was shrewd. So I just finished a book on him. And not only did he have Sam Cooke, but he was born in Newark, New Jersey, like me, brought up in a Jewish family. And here's a really weird thing. I don't know if we ever spoke about this. My dad, his mother passed away. He had like 5 sisters. Betty and Debbie were the only 2 that I knew. But my dad's family, this is during the Depression, right? In Newark, they were so poor, like everybody was, that they sent my father to, there was a Jewish boys' home in Newark. And I remember my father and his friend Frankie, who's been brought up on Last Stop, he had the record store and he survived the riots. And then he moved to Montclair, where he had the record store, and it was right next to the porn place. Right. So I was thinking, I was like 17, the guy would be, I'd walk in there, and the guy was like smoking a cigarette. He didn't care. No one cared. Looking at the magazines, right? So, but Frankie and my father used to talk about, remember so-and-so back at the home. I'm like, what's the home? It was this Jewish boys' home. So his father, Alex, who there wasn't enough money to take care of these kids properly. Yeah. So there was this Jewish boys' home in Newark where you got, good food, nice bed, and they took, it was just better than being home starving. Well, Allen Klein went to the same.
Whoa.
Yes. Wow. So Allen Klein was child of Newark. His parents were poor. We're talking like, so if he managed Sam Cooke, if he was 30 years old and 64, my dad was in this home probably my dad was born in 1919, so they were talking like 29 to 30 something. So it was it might have been the same one. How many Jewish boys' homes in Newark can there be?
Sure.
So anyway, Allen Klein was there. I just found that interesting. So he had Sam Cooke, and he really wasn't a music guy, but he was a businessman. And did he become a lawyer? He tried to, but he didn't quite achieve it. But he was a Sharpie. And although he really wasn't a music guy, he sort of knew what was good. And when he got Sam Cooke, the Beatles and the Stones were breaking out.
Right.
And he was really accruing money, especially after Sam Cooke's death. And he wanted to manage the Beatles. It was like, I am going to manage the Beatles. Well, he went to England. There's all kinds of twists and turns. And he got introduced to the Stones. We're talking like 65. And at the time, the Stones had signed some contract where they were getting, we're talking Jagger, Richards, Charlie Watts, and Bill Wyman. They were getting 1/4 of one.
Like the Creedence Clearwater Revival
penny
deal.
for each record that was sold.
Oh.
So Allen Klein figured out this deal, that to get out of that contract by getting them an American record label.
Oh.
Right. And he had this, we're talking about Sticky Fingers. We're talking about Beggar's Banquet. We're talking about Exile on Main Street.
Her Satanics.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And very good. And there was one of the first greatest hits albums was Hot Rocks, which conflicted with Exile on Main Street, but it's like just more albums, more money.
Yeah.
And so Allen Klein had the Stones. In the meantime, he was running in circles with the Beatles.
Huh.
And the Beatles were managed by Brian Epstein.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Epstein died. One thing led to another. The Beatles were getting completely fleeced. Mm-hmm. But these bands, they came from such poor backgrounds. Hey, I've got a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
I've got a beautiful car, and I've got enough money to, buy as much drugs as I want.
Yeah.
That's the way they thought. Jagger was he went to like some kind of he did some kind of economics, like a couple of years of college, but he wanted the Beatles. And eventually he was able to wrangle the Beatles, but it was too little too late. And it was right at the time when they started Apple Records and they broke up.
Yeah.
So when they broke up, Paul McCartney didn't like him, but John Lennon, he got it. He got it. They hit it off with John Lennon and Yoko. George Harrison was fine with them. It was sort of like, let him do it kind of thing. And Ringo was like, whatever.
Yeah.
So McCartney got rid of him. He still had, and now the Stones are huge.
Right.
But he has the Beatles and there's American rights and this and that. And there's a whole thing about the Bangladesh where Allen Klein had rights to that, and he was smart, let's make it into a movie.
Right.
And the money that was supposed to, we're talking about the charity.
Sure,
the money that was supposed to go to the Bangladesh Foundation, some of the concert money did, but there was a ton of money made from the record and the movie that took years if they saw the charities saw any of it. But his classic thing was this. George Harrison's first album, All Things Must Pass, had the #1 hit, My Sweet Lord. Mm-hmm. And when it came out, there was rumblings that it was a ripoff of
Hallelujah, she's so fine. He's so fine,
by the Chiffons.
Right.
And it took until 1976 for this to come into a court case. But in the interim, Allen Klein and George Harrison had parted ways. So what did Allen Klein do? He had huge money at this because he still had that Stones catalog, as well as other people. He had Bobby Vinton and this one and that. He bought the record label for $520-something thousand that the Chiffons and many other people were on. So when this thing went to court, he's going to win one way. It's like playing the black and the red.
Oh, God.
And he was a character.
Wow.
Very interesting man. I can't seem to find any there's got to be some kind of documentary about him.
Yeah.
It's certainly worthy. And he continued on for years, failed project. He turned down doing the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Really?
Yeah. He said, this is going to be, he didn't always call it right.
Well, it's amazing how right he got the other stuff. And, it's tough picking a winner. I mean, on Apple, you mentioned Apple Records, the Beatles' first couple of acts that they signed, Badfinger, had a couple of huge hits, but the expectations of being the next, the quote unquote next Beatles, they unfortunately didn't reach that. They signed James Taylor, but he was in no condition to perform.
Right.
He was addicted to heroin at that point. Had to move back to the United States from England. He was 18, 19 years old. So, I mean, they eventually got it right, but it's tough to pick a winner, even on slam dunks like James Taylor.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. You know, we were talking last week about my time with Mr. Tickets, and this is another sort of shorter episode because of Ian being in the bubble. And I was just wondering, instead of continuing about my time out in Easton, maybe tell you, it's like, I'll tell you a little fairy tale.
Okay. All right. This is a nice bonus.
Well,
it's like when you get the slot machine and you're expecting, and then the bonus comes up.
Okay. We're going to spin back the wheels of time to 1987, just for this story, or 1980. It might have been 88. Maybe it would. Oh, wait a minute. I'll tell you. You'll tell me what year. What year did Tunnel of Love come out?
That was 87. Yeah. And then the 88 was the most of the tour.
Okay. It had to be 88. And I'm with Freddie the Weeper. And the Weeper was such an interesting guy. We have to dedicate a whole episode to him at some point. We told the story about being in Tampa when he was with me when I got beat up with his money. And, you don't get the nickname the Weeper for nothing.
Right.
And there was a chance where he really could be the Weeper, but he was more about, why didn't you get me? And the Weeper was with us, with me and with myself and Bo. We were in New Orleans,
right?
And so when I came back from New Orleans, Freddie was the guy to be with. This way, these guys on the street, these guys that had that were a little bit tougher, or some of the more demonstrative guys, since I was working with Freddie, they would, because if you just came on the street by yourself, just say, oh, let me go down to the Garden because I bought 20 tickets for Bad Company.
I just listened to Free. What a great voice. Paul Rogers. Yeah.
And I'm going to sell these 20. Some of these guys, if you would see it, it would be like, what do you got? And get off the corner kind of thing. And, but since I was aligned with, Freddie, anyway, on that Bruce tour, at the time at the Garden, there was it was either a steak and ale or a beefsteak Charlie's.
Oh yeah.
That's before your time.
No, that was still. I
remember those AJ?
99% sure. I mean, I remember Beefsteak Charlie. I don't remember how recently.
Our producer's nodding yes. Beefsteak Charlie's was a nice. It was like a. What's that restaurant right off 22?
Outback.
Well, maybe
higher,
a step higher.
Right.
Anyway, there was one in the lobby of the Garden. As you walked through that 7th Avenue entrance towards the box office, it was on the right-hand side. And it was a good place to go because none of the other scalpers were allowed in there. I spoke about the Blarney Rock and there's some of them, certain bars, they weren't allowed. So Freddie and I would go in there like during the day, and Freddie was a big dude. And one of his things was he'd be like, oh, you want to split a sandwich? And I'll be like, well, why don't we just... So eventually he would succumb to an entire one. I told you that why'd you buy me that big thing story.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we're in Beefsteak Charlie's. Bruce is having a run at the Garden of like, it was like minimum of, it was like 6 shows. And they were coming up. There might have been, it was staggered. So it was like a Monday, a Thursday, a Saturday night, and then the next week was another 3. It might have been a 7-show run. And one of the shows might have happened, and it was huge. And we were talking last week about the $100 ticket.
Right.
And that was going to be the death. Well, I remember these Bruce tickets were like $17.
Oh, geez.
Right.
Yeah.
1988, maybe $20.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're in the Beefsteak Charlie's, and there's a guy, he's not a ticket scalper, a guy we'd never seen, sort of, mid-30s, collared shirt, sitting a few stools away, and he says, he must, similar to the con that happened in Tampa.
Yeah.
He's like, I heard you guys talking about tickets. Did you want any Springsteen tickets? And we're like, sure, what do you have? And he's got, well, let's just say for the discussion's sake, there were 5 shows left. Mm-hmm. Well, I've got this coming Saturday, excuse me, and I have next week all the remaining shows. It was like if this was a Tuesday, we were in the bar. He didn't have the Thursday show. He had the Saturday, the Monday, the Wednesday, the Friday, and the Saturday. Mm-hmm. Right? And he pulls out a stack of tickets. Now you had the Ticketmaster stock, and then you had the Madison Square Garden stock because they had the box office sales. Right. These were Madison Square Garden tickets, and all of them were floor section. They had this very strange lettering system. You would figure the front sections would be lettered A, B, C, but they were like R-O. It's very odd. Well, he had middle floors. I remember H and K were the middle floors. Not the best seats for a concert, but so he had these section H, row 9, 10, 11, seats 1 through 12 or 1 through 8 for all the different shows. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at Freddie. He had the money, and what do you want for him? And he wanted, we should have known. We should have known if the tickets were, what did I say? Might have been 20,
17.
Yeah, if there was a $20, he wanted like 25 each. If you take them all. Where'd you get these? He goes, I have a connection, but we'd never seen the guy around. Yeah. So Freddie's like, oh. So this is Freddie being very demonstrative. He says, can I look at him, please? And the guy's like, sure. So Freddie's looking at him. So, and I'm going to, they look right. And I think Freddie made me ask him, can I take one of the tickets and go check with the box office? The guy's like, yeah. So Freddie sat with the guy. The guy gave me one ticket. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, I was going into the window between the digging and trying to buy tickets like releases. Sure. So I knew some of these guys in the window. Right. That you could do business. There was a guy, Harry. There was another guy, Joe. They were always like, look, there were no cameras. So I went up to this Joe guy and I said, hey, Joe, does this look right? Mm-hmm. And here's a guy who works inside the garden with those tickets. And he's looking at it and he looks at the back. And he looks at the serial, he didn't have a computer to look at it, but he's like, yeah, it's good. That's good. Well, we bought the seats. Mm-hmm. It might have been, 20 seats for each night, which would have been about a total like $3,000 or $4,000.
Got a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Do the seats being not so great add to your feeling that they might be authentic?
Well,
did that help kind of convince you that they?
No, it was just odd that he would have the same seats for the same,
same shows, so on and so forth.
Right.
And you're talking $3,000-$4,000. Did Freddie the Weeper just roll around with that in his pocket?
No, but he was able to borrow some from Silent Sydney.
Oh, so
Freddie would maybe have $1,000 on him. Wow. Sydney would have, because there might be let's say U2 suddenly, they released tickets for you too. They opened up the site, which is a month away, but they after production changes, they've opened up the Kills, as Gary Juster and would say. They opened them up. So you had to be ready. So Sidney would send this, here's 200, go get 8. Here's 200, go get 8. So he needed, a couple thousand on him at all times.
Jesus.
So
there's there's not really ATMs yet, kind of, sort of, but not really.
Freddie didn't have no
no bank account. No, okay.
So we got the money. Freddie got the money together, and this guy was a cool cookie, and we didn't want to, we were just hoping. So we bought the tickets.
Wow.
And we never saw the guy again. And now we had the tickets. Well, there was a ticket agency at the time called Hickey's, which was on like 45th Street, right? The Imperial Theater. Did you go with us to Ain't Too Proud to Beg?
No.
Okay. That's the theater where Ain't Too Proud to Beg was playing. And at the time on 45th, which has a lot of theaters, the Music Box, this one, that one, there was a ticket agency right on the street. And Freddie goes, go up to see Hickey's. To bring him up some, let's try to, right away he was panicking. So let's try to move some. I remember going to Hickey's and telling him, listen, I've got these seats for next coming Saturday, not this Saturday, the next Saturday, and then the final show, and asking him for $75 a ticket. And he just says, fine, I'll take them.
Whoa.
Right? Which we obviously were charging too little.
Right.
Because the market for Bruce is still huge, but it was huge. So Hickey buys those.
Whoa.
And we're gold, right?
Yeah.
Well.
Uh-oh. Then the shoe drops.
Well, the shoe literally dropped, and I'll tell you why. Okay. Because there was a shoe store on 33rd Street.
Okay.
You had the Bantry Bar, the Blarney Rock, and McCann's. And right between 7th and 6th, and right in between two of the bars, was this old shoe store.
Okay.
And it was a guy, Dominic, the old man that had the shoe store. It was there since the 40s.
Yeah.
Dominic worked there as a kid, got into the ticket hustle. Did some bookmaking on the side, later opened an after-hours club, and he was involved with tickets. So we went over to Dominic's, and maybe Dominic needs some. The father would be so pissed because, these scalpers are coming in and out. He's got a lady, and they were expensive shoes. To pay the rent on 33rd Street.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Dominic says, you got he goes, wait a minute. He goes, you got section H, row 7, seats 1 to 7? So do I.
Oh, no.
And I go, Dominic, did you buy them off some guy? He goes, no, we got these out of the window the day they went on sale. So we're like, oh, shit.
Oh, no.
Because Dominic was legit, trustworthy.
Yeah.
And he was, I said, look, don't tell nobody, right? Well, Freddie was a straight up guy, as well as myself. And we did not want to be selling, like we talked about Mama Pretzel, when she made the $40,000. Well, the people were getting in. Well, they might have get in, but they might have got thrown out too.
Right.
So now we're holding a pile of shit. And then Freddie goes, oh no, Hickey's. Hickeys. Oh. So I had to run back to Hickey's.
Yeah.
And say, this all might have happened within a few hours of each other, or maybe the next day, and walk back. I think it was the same day, and they were there, and I said, "Did you sell those tickets yet?" He goes, "Well, I got a sale for them." I go, "Look, here's your money back. I don't think they're good." So we gave Hickey's their money back.
Yeah.
Now we're sitting with $4,000 of shit. And the first show's coming up, like, let's say 2 days from when we had 3 days. So what did we do? There's always someone who'll buy them knowing they're bogus.
Really?
Right. So there was a number of these hustlers that had no compunction about, so we had to bail out, finding guys that you could tell these aren't, they look good, but they ain't good. We're not vouching for them.
Mm-hmm.
And, Freddie was like, we paid 30. Oh, yeah, can you give us 20? Can you give us 20? Oh, just give me 20 apiece. I'll take a look. So instead of making, which we would have made like, 6,000, 7,000.
Right.
We lost, like 1,000 or 1,500 and sold them to these, we did not sell any of those tickets to any fans, but at the same time, we had to recoup the money.
Yeah.
So we had to find someone to buy them.
Oh.
And we did. So it was terrible.
What do you think they did? I mean, obviously, they turned around and sold them. What happens when you get turned away?
Well, I think what would have happened was the people would have got in the building. There was no scanning at that point.
Right.
And they certainly would have got in. The question is, when two sets of people went to section H, row 7, seats 1 to 8, what do they do?
Yeah, did they send them to the Felt Forum, maybe? Overflow?
No, they didn't. There was no... to do what? There was no closed circuit?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying.
You go to the penalty box. I think they just let the people, probably let them stay in the building.
Yeah.
Or maybe they threw them out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we didn't want, bad situation.
Yeah.
We got caught with blink. We got caught in a blinker scam.
In the words of Bruce, you got caught point blank.
Right.
Yeah. Did you get to see him at all on that tour?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That was an interesting one. The horn section with the Asbury Jukes, Pender, La Bamba. They were there on the whole tour.
You know what, Ian? I stand corrected. I didn't go because of the disgust.
Yeah.
Not of Bruce.
Right.
I got into Bruce late.
Okay.
I'm ashamed to tell you.
Nah,
I got into Bruce late. He was so popular, and me being a Jersey guy and him being a Jersey guy, he was almost over publicized.
Yeah.
And I stupidly, I'm always talking about Jethro Tull, and if you look at 70s, 70s, Ian Anderson is just like this amazing stage presence. Little did I know, so did Bruce.
Right.
In a different way. Just like Mick Jagger in a different way. Just like Michael Jackson in a different way. One of the greatest stage presence of all time. So I would have loved it.
Right.
And the music was good. So I got into him later. I went to the Tunnel of Love tour and probably every tour since.
Yeah. It's weird. You're a huge Billy Joel guy. I feel like you have to draw for whatever. There's no rule that says this. I feel like you have to pick a side though, because I
sort of boycotted Billy Joel like in the 70s in my younger days. With the Zeppelins and Floyd.
Yeah.
Oh, Billy Joel.
I boycotted him because the Allentown song. It's too true. Everything he sung about actually happened. It's too close to home. All the industry leaving and all that.
Yeah.
But, wow. Last question. At the time, did they have the concert still in the middle of the garden, or did they then?
Oh, that was the end stage.
They had the stage at the end.
All the concerts I went to, starting with my first concert being Zeppelin and all these other shows, Quadrophenia, Elton John, Alice Cooper, so on and so forth, they were all end stages, which leads to an interesting question before we close. What was the first in the round? I saw Yes play in the round, but they only in those late '60s, like my cousin with Mike G. Blind Faith, that was in the round.
Wow,
The Doors was in the round. They didn't know how else to do it.
Right, and then that actually sells the most tickets.
Yes,
so I would think there'd be a push for that from the promoter, from the building.
Yeah, there were other ones. I'll have to jog my memory. So when you get out of the bubble and we come back to Last Stop Penn Station, I'll think about this because it's a good question, because there had to be other acts I saw. It's hard to play in the round.
Yeah.
With good production. I remember the Yes show had the stage slowly rotated.
Ah, that's interesting.
And you need, is the lighting rig going to rotate? No.
Right.
So it's a tough thing, but we look forward to seeing you after the bubble.
Right.
We look forward to the anniversary show coming up
next Friday.
And we'll be back at you with another episode of Last Stop Penn Station. Please subscribe, rate, review, buy a shirt. Get down.
Get down. Check out Basan Creative, who helps us with the videos on YouTube, with the audio production, all that fun stuff. BasanCreative.com. Our friend Eric.
Eric, with Discover Pro Wrestling.
Yep.
Thank you, Eric.
And we hope that you've enjoyed this episode. When we come back, it'll be 19th anniversary time for Ring of Honor. It'll be Friday the 26th. And
I know the title of this episode, by the way.
What's that?
It was Freddie's mantra. Oh, why did I get involved?
I think we've used that before.
Well, it might
part two.
Yeah.
Well, Cary, thanks for sharing that. And thank you for listening. For Cary, AJ, I'm Ian. And we'll see you next week, Last Stop Penn Station.
I thank God it stole the hammer, and the train it won't stop going. No, it just slowed down.
We hail you for listening to Last Stop Penn Station podcast. Rate, review, like, subscribe, and share on your favorite platform. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or at laststoppennstation.com.